I quit my job in the oil fields of West Texas and now make over $15,000 a month with this simple business. Now, this simple business I'm going to be giving you only takes 4 steps. It's ultimately how I was able to go from paycheck to paycheck to financially free. You don't need any business experience. You don't need tech. You don't need sales experience. This business model is so simple. You're going to pretty much be able to learn it. And even right now in 2026, while watching this video, you're going to be like, where has this business been all along? Now let's go ahead and jump into step number 1. In order for you to operate any business in the US, you have to be a legitimate company, right? You can always do a DBA. You could always work under your own name, your own social. But here's the thing about having an LLC and why it's so important. In order for you to operate an ATM business, you actually need an LLC. You cannot work under anyone else's name. And the reason being is because with an ATM business, because it is cash only, the LLC is going to make sure that whenever you work with a bank, that your numbers, your paperwork is all intact. Another reason why the LLC is super important is because at the end of the day, guys, it's going to protect you and your personal assets. For example, someone trips over your ATM and now they want to go ahead and sue you. Well, they can only go after your LLC. They cannot go after your personal expenses. They can only go after your LLC. I'm going to walk you guys through this step-by-step process on how to set up the LLC for your ATM business. My favorite website to work with is Busy.com. When you get to the homepage of Busy.com, it's going to give you the option of launching your LLC within minutes. So what you're going to do is you're going to select LLC. Once you go ahead and get the LLC put in, you want to go ahead and select your state. Literally, any state in the US works. What you'll do is you'll hit Start My Business. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the basic package. So I would go with the basic package, which is a $0 fee by Busy. The only thing you have to worry about is the state fee, which for Texas is $300. Now, for most of my students, I always recommend getting the expedite filing fee. Typically, instead of waiting 4 weeks, you could get it within 3 business days, which, for everybody that wants to start sooner, suggest you pay the $50. Then what you'll do is you'll go ahead and get started. Once you go ahead and get started, this is where you're going to be able to start off with filling out like your information. So your LLC name. One thing I recommend, do not use ATM in your name. Reason being is because it just ultimately raises more awareness toward your account. Fund Services LLC. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And then we'll go ahead and start filling out personal information. And then we'll go ahead and hit next. Once you get to the next page, it's going to be company address information. So right here, you can choose whether you want a virtual address or you want to use your own address. Most people go with their own address because it's free. You don't have to worry about any payments. But if you go virtual address, the virtual address for the first month is free, but I believe every single month moving forward, I believe is $29 a month. Whichever way you go, it's going to ask you for your information here. So what you'll do is you'll go ahead and go put in your information. It's going to ask you to confirm your address. Usually it shows you 2 because Busy works with USPS, I believe. So what they'll do is they'll connect into the USPS server and make sure the address matches based on what USPS has on file. And they will tell you, do you want to use the one they suggest or the one you suggest? For the most part, they're both the same. So you could just go ahead and hit use as entered. This is a premium service. They want to kind of sell you throughout the process of filling out an application. What you'll do is you just hit nothing. The next step is going to be the selecting members of how many people are within your LLC. For the most part, every single one of you is probably going to be a single member. But if you have a 2 member, then you'll do 2. Member 1, you'll go ahead and select the information, which for the most part is your information that you've already filled in. You'll go ahead and hit next. Once you go ahead and hit next, right here is going to ask you, do you want a registered agent? It will try to, again, sell you on this. You'll hit no, I would like to act as my own registered agent. And then you'll go ahead and hit next. Oh, first fill out your information, which you checked it out here. You should fill it in. Then you go ahead and hit next. No, I don't need Busy to obtain my EAN. This is pretty much, again, they're trying to sell you the EAN. You don't need it. You could get it for free on the IRS website. Right here, they charge you $70. So you'll just hit next. Right here is like Bank of America Business Advantage Banking. So when you like to apply for a business account with Bank of America, you hit no at this, then you hit next. What's next is you'll go ahead and hit select preferred method of delivery. So what you'll choose here is you'll go ahead and select electronic delivery because you'll be able to receive confirmation and your articles of organization alongside of your LLC paperwork in the email. Right here, you hit no, I'm not interested at this time, and then you go ahead and hit next. After you hit next, business licenses, it says we identified 2 licenses for your business in Texas. So you'll hit no, thank you, I'll do it myself, and then you're going to go ahead and hit. So after this, what it's going to show you is order summary. Now guys, make sure you look over everything. Make sure your name is spelled out correctly, just like you want it. Make sure contact information is set up correctly. The next step is going to be hitting next. And then once you get to this point, you're pretty much going to be ready for payment confirmation. Once you go ahead and fill out the information, what you're going to do is hit agree and then complete and pay. After you go ahead and hit complete and pay, it's going to give you your confirmation for your payment. But right after you put in your payment, after this is going to be like a little pop-up screen. And the pop-up screen is going to be identify your type of business. It's going to tell you what type of business are you opening. What you will put in as an ATM owner operator is the code 522320. The first one that pops up, because a few of them will pop up after you put in that code, you're going to select the one that says automated teller machines, parentheses ATM. That's going to be the one that you click. Step number 2 is going to be opening up a business bank account. When it comes to ATMs, guys, you have to be very careful, because when an ATM owner operator walks into the bank and tries to open up a business bank account, you have to go and work with the right banks. And the reason being is because the ATM business is considered a high-risk business. Before you just start calling any bank and trying to set up an account, or walk into any bank and try to set up an account, the first thing that you want to do is figure out what banks are ATM business friendly, what banks work with businesses that are heavy in cash volume. And the reason being is because majority banks like Bank of America, Chase, or Wells Fargo, they do not work with the ATM business. But most importantly, it's vulnerable to money laundering. And because of that, this is why big banks don't want to work with you. Before you even start going out to a bank, trying to open up your account, trying to get ahead of the game, first sit down and figure out what banks you're going to strategically go to, because that's super important. It's going to save you time, and it's going to save you a lot of money. Whenever me and my mentees go into the banks that ultimately I already have a list of for us, we go in, we have all of our paperwork, right? Paperwork consists of the LLC, the EIN, and then sometimes some banks will ask for like an agreement, whether it's a processing agreement or an agreement between you and the business that you're working with. One of the banks that I used to work with, and how they shut me down. At the time, I had about 4 or 5 ATMs that I was filling up, and I used to always do my refills on Fridays. Reason being was because Fridays, a lot of people are getting off of work, they're getting ready for the weekend, so it's typically the most busiest time. So I wanted to always be prepared ahead of time before the weekend comes for all of my locations. I went into the bank, it was Bank of America, by the way, went up to the teller, can I go ahead and withdraw $10,000 is what I said. They were like, yeah, sure, here, fill out the paperwork. That the banker went into the computer and tried to do all the banker stuff that they do before they give you the money. Well, the banker tells me, hey Juan, your account is frozen. And I'm like, what do you mean it's frozen? Your ATM business can no longer bank with us, Bank of America. And then I'm like, what do I do? Do I just pull out my money? I mean, I'm here to take my money out anyways. They were like, no, unfortunately, because your account has been frozen by the bank, you have to wait 7 to 14 business days before you can get your money. It was a Friday, I was getting ready for the weekends, and the bank's not giving me my money. So this is why I'm telling you guys, and why ultimately I'm giving you this sauce, is because I want you guys to go and set up a business, but do it the right way. A lot of people tend to kind of skip over these steps because they feel like, oh, an ATM business, I could set it up. But no, one thing I will recommend you guys to do is when you open up a business bank account, always try to open up 2 accounts. One for your surcharge, and one for your bulk cash. The reason why this is important is because as a business owner, you want to stay as organized as possible. Your surcharge account, which is technically the profits that come in from your ATM, you want to have that in a separate account, because whenever you're pretty much filing taxes at the end of the year, you want to be able to keep everything in order, right? Your business expenses, your business profits in one account, so you can get your profit and loss statements. The other account is going to be dedicated for bulk cash. This is going to be the money that you use to fill up an ATM with. That account should typically always be at zero, because you're using the same money to fill up your ATM, and that same exact money goes right back into that account. An ATM business, the way it works is every time you go fill up the ATM with money, a customer goes up to your ATM and they pull out cash, they have to pay a convenience fee or a surcharge fee, whatever you want to call it, and that fee typically ranges from $3 to $3.50 within the United States. That's the average fee, and every single time someone pulls out money, they have to pay that fee, and then that fee goes to your account alongside of the money they pulled out, so that you get your money back plus your profit. That's how we as ATM business owners make money. And let's go ahead and get into step 3. Step 3 is going to be pretty much the fun part, I would say, when it comes to the ATM business. It's going to be setting up the processor. Once you work with a processor, you're able to start ordering your ATMs, which is always fun. They're going to be the ones that are going to allow you to set up your account with the back end on the back office so that you're able to track your ATMs. You're able to see everything live. Trust me, guys, every once in a while, I like to pull out my phone and just open up my account and see all my ATMs just making me money live. And then, of course, most importantly, they're the ones that are processing all of your ATM transactions. When it comes to a processor, I 100% recommend you guys to work with a processor that will give you free processing, meaning they will not charge you anything for your transactions, and also they will not put you under contract, because there's a lot of processors out there. They're sharp. They're out to get as many people as they can under contract. I mean, they're just trying to make as much money as they can from beginners. As a beginner, if you don't know better, you put yourself under contract where now you're probably stuck for the next 2-3 years. And I mean, it's just a path you don't want to be on. You want to look for free processing, whatever processor you work with. If you charge $3.50 and your ATM is, let's say, doing 100 transactions a month, which is technically $350 in profit that you make from that one ATM, that is 100% yours. The processor will not take nothing. Now, no contract means that they're not tying you to them. They're not obligating you to work with them. So if, let's just say, for example, you grow your business to 50 or 100 ATMs, and that's what you should ultimately look for when it comes to a processor, right? Now, you guys may be wondering, well, Juan, how do they even make money? The way they make money on processing is through interchange. And the way interchange works, just to kind of sum it all up for you guys, the banks, credit card companies, they pay them in order for them to allow the ATM to process certain transactions, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and so on and so forth. That's how they make money. A lot of the processors that charge fees, that put you under contract, they're typically smaller processors with less volume, which is why they charge up front, because obviously some people, they got to make money. Another thing when working with an ATM processor is you want to be able to get ATMs at wholesale price. You want to be able to get ATMs at a discounted rate. You want to be able to get free shipping. You want to be able to get the internet modems for your ATMs at a discounted rate. I mean, there's so much that comes into a processing account, a processor that you need to look for when trying to get this business up and running. One thing I always want to say, I like to always make this clear: buy new when new. A new ATM is super important. Why working with a processor is also super important, because a lot of processors will typically help you buy new. Buying a new ATM is like buying a new car. No one's ever driven it. No one's ever scraped the rims, messed up the interior. It's a brand new car. It comes with warranty. If anything happens, the manufacturer, or in this case the dealership, they got your back. So 100% buy new. Now, when it comes to buying an ATM, if you want my personal preference right now from the date of this recording, I would recommend you a GenMega G2500. The reason being is because the GenMega G2500, just as well as the Hyosung Halo 2, have both been my preference. But recently, the Hyosungs have recently had problems with the manufacturers. Like, people have been receiving the machines and they've been having malfunctions. So I've kind of stepped away from Hyosung. I still have dozens of Hyosungs myself. I still love the machine. In my opinion, the Hyosung looks better than the GenMega, but the GenMega by far has been the most reliable for me, which is why that's the machine that I recommend you guys watching right now to buy right now in 2026. Now, guys, I want you to remember, this is me telling you guys from 6 years of experience of being inside of this business. I've seen multiple people make mistakes by trying to go and buy cheap machines, by trying to go and get a different processor that might put them under contract but promise them free processing, or go work with like Bank of America because they've been banking with that bank for 15 plus years, and I've seen it all happen and all go left. Right? So this is me telling you guys from 6 years of experience. Trust me when I say this, everything I'm walking you guys through right now, I've been through myself. Now, I can say that we've helped hundreds and hundreds of people across the country go from working a 9-to-5 to now either working a 9-to-5 and making passive income, or simply walking away from their 9-to-5 and now making passive income through their ATM business, and ultimately using it as a vehicle to help them start up other business ventures. If that's you, right, you're in the position where you want to make passive income, you're tired of working a 9-to-5, then keep watching this video, because by the end of this video, you should be able to understand and learn how to start your own ATM business. So for example, like Juan here, he went from knowing nothing about ATMs. He was working a job just like anyone else, working paycheck to paycheck, and now he makes an extra $2,500 a month on top of his income by simply starting an ATM business and now placing these ATMs all across his state, generating him passive income month after month. Or for example, you have David here, who started with me back in January of 2025, so about a year later, and now has scaled his ATM business to over 10 different ATMs, making him over $3,000 to $4,000 a month because he has cannabis dispensaries all across his state. He went from working a part-time job while being a college student at the same time and still managed to get his business up and running, and now making him passive income. These are all regular people that at one point didn't even know that this business actually existed. So if you want me to hold your hand and guide you throughout this whole process, from buying your first machine, setting up your company, opening up the right bank, and even helping you with finding the right location, what I want you to do is just take a second to acknowledge the link in my bio. I will pretty much help you not only one-on-one, but help you by giving you more resources, more support on how you can do this exact step and apply without any error. Step number 4, but this is the one that's going to ultimately determine if you make money. Now, obviously, it's the location, right? Location is key in this business. I always like to say location, location, location. You could set up an LLC, you could set up a business bank account, you could work with the right processor, but if your ATM is not in the right location, you're not making any money. You're just gonna have a business that doesn't work. If you're watching this video and you've been thinking about or looking into the ATM business, you've probably been considering a few spots, right? So after watching this and all the feedback that I give you based on locations, I want you to go ahead and take it and implement it into your area, into your market, so that you can be just as effective when it comes to setting up your business. At this section, guys, what I want to go ahead and do for you guys is give you guys an idea what most people do when it comes to setting up a location. Most people, what they'll do is they'll go ahead and jump to conclusion. They'll see a business, they'll be like, okay, it's a pretty good business, it's one of my favorite businesses, but they don't pay attention to the foot traffic, they don't pay attention to the reviews, they don't do their due diligence on that business. So when it comes to going into the business and ultimately closing the business, and then they finally are there for a month later or 2 months later and their ATM isn't making money, and then they go back and they're like, well, why doesn't this work? So when it comes to location, you want to look into the urban areas, larger cities. You want to go ahead and right off the jump, focus on businesses, focus on locations that have a lot of traffic. The more traffic that the business has, the more eyes that are on your ATM, the more people that will ultimately use your ATM. Because at the end of the day, I always like to say the more traffic, the more profit. Now, the next thing besides traffic is obviously how cash driven is the business, right? How many people are actually going into the business and needing cash? For example, a gas station, they take credit cards, but gas stations are known as pit stops, right? People stop for them not just for gas, but to stop for snacks. So they get a lot of foot traffic. So not only do people stop for gas, but people stop for other things, or a convenience to use the ATM to withdraw money so that they can go have game night with their family, right? It's all about being convenient, placing it in convenient spots where it's cash driven. Again, the foot traffic is there. A business with good reviews, a good environment, a good area is always going to be a good business as well, because it's kind of like real estate. If you buy a house in a beat up area, high crime area, hear gunshots every weekend, it's going to be harder to find someone that wants to rent out that property. A cheat code that I always like to use is going to be looking into the Google Maps. The first thing before I walk into a business, before I reach out to the business, is look up the business on Google. Look it up on Yelp. Look at their reviews. See what the reviews are about. See what the people are saying about the business. If the business has a bad reputation, if it has bad reviews, when other people look that business up and those reviews pop up, it's going to make them not go to the business. So when it comes to looking for businesses, you always want to make sure they also have good reviews. They have good feedback. People actually like going into that business, which at the end of the day, that brings you more traffic, that brings you more eyes to your ATM. Now, another thing that I always also like to focus on when it comes to prospecting locations, guys, is the different ways on how you can prospect, because there's always old school, right, which is door to door, driving for dollars, cold calling. But the next best way that I would personally recommend you is prospecting online, leveraging social media. Most of you guys watching right now have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. leverage your social media platform to generate leads. A lot of people oversee this, but being able to post about your business online and getting people to refer you business owners is always going to be a effective method for you, because businesses that are coming to you is leads that are coming to you. You don't have to actively look for them. I always pay people that send me referrals. Anytime I make a post about my business online, or anytime I talk to someone about my business and mention referrals, I always say I will pay you if you bring me a location that works, because at the end of the day, people are money driven. That's just human nature. You could also run ads. You run ads on Google, run ads on Facebook. There's a lot of business owners on social media as well that are scrolling through their social media. They might not know about an ATM. There's so many different ways on how you can be creative when it comes to prospecting locations. Now I want to get into how to pitch the business to the owner, because at the end of the day, there's different ways on how you can pitch the business to the owner. I mean, people go in and be like, hey, I can install free ATM in your business, and that works a lot of the times. A lot of people will go in and be like, hey, you know, if I can put this ATM inside of your business and pay you a percentage, would you be open to that? Of course I would be open to that, right? Because they're incentivizing them with money right off the jump. The way I kind of like to do things, because I like to keep as much money as I can. I don't believe in being greedy, because greedy could ultimately hurt you in the long term. But if you can go into a business and you can offer a solution to a problem that they are already having, don't bring up the money, because as long as that solution solves their problem and they're for it, they don't care about the money. They just care that you increase more foot traffic. They just care that you give them more cash revenue. When it comes to pitching the business, I always like to say, hey, I see that you use Square. I know Square has high processing fees. Do you ever get tired of paying those fees? I can tell you 9 out of 10 times, every business owner that pays processing fees will say, yes, I freaking hate these fees. So it's now your job on making that a pain point and figuring out how you can minimize that pain with your services, which ultimately comes down to installing a free ATM, providing free maintenance, providing free support, 24/7 support, giving them all the good news that they can possibly hear with the free service that's going to help them solve that problem. If the merchant, because there will be merchants out there that will ask, well, how much do I get? If the merchant at any moment is like, you know what, I need something like a percentage, like how much do you pay me? How much will I get? That's when you start to kind of offer them the bare minimum, which is typically 25 cents to $1 per transaction, and somewhere anywhere from 15 to 20% of the surcharge fee. And that at that point will help you secure the deal, because not only do they get the free service, they get the free ATM in their business, they get the added convenience for their business, but they also make a percentage off of your business. So that's just a great way to close the deal. I always like to say the money that you give the business is always the cherry on top. When it comes to covering ATMs, just to kind of give you guys a little bit more on the ATM side of things, it doesn't require a lot of time nor a lot of money to run an ATM business. The cost behind an ATM is really more keeping it running, right? Like paying for the internet modem itself typically is like $150 to $200 for the modem, which you should get it included when you buy the ATM. The only cost that comes with that internet modem is the monthly payment. That's so that your ATM is connected to Wi-Fi. That's so that your ATM is continuously running and making you money. I would say that when it comes to cost to run the ATM business, it's very minimal. I mean, you change the receipt every 3 to 4 or 5 months. The receipt paper, you could buy a pack of like 8 from Amazon for like $60, and that would last you like a year and a half. So cost is very, very low when it comes to running this business. If the business owner ever asks like, what does it cost for me to have my ATM, this ATM inside of my business, then you could tell them that the ATM uses little to no electricity. I mean, if we put it in terms of numbers, if an ATM does about 200 transactions a month, which I considered above average, even at that pace, an ATM still uses no more than $5 a month in electricity. It doesn't use up a lot of power. It might be big and bulky, but the only thing that uses power is the little screen on the machine, which is almost like charging a phone. All right, guys, that is pretty much going to be it for this live. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, the 4-step process on how you can start your own ATM business. Now that you have everything for you to be able to set up and kickstart your ATM business, it is your time to take over 2026 and start building passive income for you and your family. Now, if you're ready to take this up a notch, I want you to go ahead and watch the next video where I'm going to show you the top locations to prospect for your ATM business. And also, if you guys would like to work with me on a one-on-one basis, then I want to go ahead and let you guys know that I have a free school community that I want you guys to join. It's down below. You can click the link in the video. I always have weekly live trainings. I always communicate with my members inside of the school through DMs or through posts. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and put the link to my school under this video. Inside of my school, I will be going on live every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, where I talk all about the ATM business. I have live interactions with you guys where you guys are able to ask questions during the live and watch the live, of course. For all of the people that can't make the live, I always record it, so I always post the replays. But I also have a free mini course in there as well. But most importantly, this is going to be the community where you guys will be able to reach out to me and have conversations with me. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. It was Juan, founder of Wealth Streams Academy and founder of Wealth Streams for Beginners. I will see you guys next time. Peace.